contest is scheduled for one fall. Making their way to the ring.
Live from the AfterBuzz TV studios, it's Making Their Way to the Ring with Lilian Garcia.
I know we start the show clapping every single week, but it's because we're so excited. Oh my gosh. Welcome to Making Their Way to the Ring on AfterBuzz TV. I am Lilian Garcia, and you can catch me at Lilian Garcia on Instagram and Twitter, Lilian Garcia official fan page on Facebook. And why am I so happy? Because we have a huge show heading your way today. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yes! All right, so here to help me to kick everything off is former TMZ senior producer. He is also now the editor-in-chief of ProWrestlingSheet.com and the news editing, whatever you call it, the news producer, the senior, you know, he's got so many titles that every week you want a bigger and bigger and bigger announcement. All right, so Ryan Sattin's in the house.
Hello, everyone. I love that intro. You can find me as well on social media. It's at Ryan Satin, and my website, ProWrestlingSheet.com, is at WrestlingSheet as well. And like you said, Lilian, we've got a can of whoop-ass to unleash in this episode.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. Seriously. Been trying to get Stone Cold on here for a while, and he is a very busy man.
Yes.
But he was so awesome. I finally, you know, and he tells the story, so I don't want to retell the story because he kind of tells the story on the interview that you guys are going to hear. You probably already saw that I actually posted a Facebook Live on Lilian Garcia official fan page on my Facebook. And it was so crazy. Like, immediately people were like, what? Because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm with Stone Cold, you know? I went to his place and we were doing the podcast, and he talks about how he's in the middle of remodeling his house as well. So we were like, in his next door,
his second house.
His second house, yeah, where he's going to be actually probably setting that up to do his podcast studio, which is brilliant.
That's so smart, yeah.
So smart.
Yeah.
I saw his room. He took me afterwards to see the whole remodel of his house. Oh my God, it looks so good. Because I was there beforehand when he had me on his podcast.
Yeah, no, 316 Gimmick Street is a very nice house. So I'm excited to see what the remodel would look like as well. I know what that's like on the Facebook Live thing that you were talking about.
Yeah.
The picture I posted when I was on his show of Stone Cold and I was probably like the most liked picture I've ever had on social media.
People love him.
Yeah, he's
love
the best.
him. And you know, some of the things that I absolutely love interviewing people, especially when I've worked with them for so long, because I find out something new every day, right? And when I asked him, and I'm just going to give this away right now, because I really want to preface it. I asked him about what was his biggest struggle, you know, growing up and all, and he talked about how shy he was.
That's so
Shy.
weird. That's so weird that Stone Cold was shy.
Steve and shy do not go into the same sentence. And I'm like, what? And he really goes into, like I said, I don't want to give it away. He goes into the story about this. But then he talked about how 3 out of 4 years, and something he'd never shared before. So, breaking news. I'm going to give it away right here. But he talked about how, you know, in the yearbook, they pick class favorites. And he was chosen that 3 out of 4. I think is it called class favorite? Like for ours had different categories. I don't know. Did you guys
like
have that
most
too?
likely and stuff like that?
Most likely to succeed, most talented, most whatever.
Did he get
right?
most likely to open a can of whoop ass on someone?
No, you know, he didn't tell me like specific. He just said it was a class favorite. But
Okay.
he got 3 out of 4. So I don't know exactly how that high school works. And then the last year he got, what was it, the cowboy? So it's like their form of the homecoming king. But and it was cool because when I heard this, I'm like, oh my God, he just gave hope to that kid who's really, really shy and doesn't think that anybody's going to like him or be able to identify with him, or he's not going to have any friends or anything. And, you know, Steve just talked about how he was just true to himself, and people ended up liking him because he was just genuine.
Well, he's the common man, and that's why everyone likes him so much.
Yeah.
As entertaining as he is, I mean, I think that's why everyone relates with him, because he feels like you could be Stone Cold if you really wanted to, you know?
Right.
If you just, like, put your mind to it, drank a few Steve Weisers, and kicked a little bit of ass. Like,
Yes.
you could be Stone Cold if you wanted to.
Yes. So I think that's exactly what he ended up doing. He took that into the ring, and we even talk about that. You know, when people are maybe heels and they asked to be a babyface, and are they a good babyface? Can they transition? Yeah, like I said, I'm not going to give away anymore. It was really an awesome time to be talking with him. We talked for about an hour and a half. Of course, I could have kept going and asking more and more, but I want to be respectful of his time as well.
No, I totally understand that, because when I went and recorded his show, it was like we finished, and then we sat there for like another hour and a half and just like hung out, drinking a beer and like talking.
You can just keep, right? He's so entertaining. I really want to thank him for sharing the stories that he did. It was just awesome. I know you guys are going to love this.
And speaking of stories that people shared, like, I really liked your Carmella interview. Like, I listened to it. I thought it was really insightful, because she hasn't done like a ton of interviews and stuff.
Yeah, her first podcast.
That was her first podcast. There we go.
First podcast.
So
ever.
It was interesting to hear like her talk about her dad being a wrestler, because you don't really hear her talking about that. Like you said, it's her first podcast interview.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to hear her be like, oh, they're looking for wrestlers. Like, well, my dad was a wrestler. Like, this is perfect. Like, I'll go do it. And then to listen to her talking about being at WrestleMania with all the other NXT people last year, and sitting there and watching the women wrestle and thinking to herself like, oh, that'll be so cool if I get to do that one day. And then fast forwarding to a year later, where she was like one of the last matches on the show for the title, and she was like, if you had asked me a year ago, I never would have thought that I would be wrestling for the title a year later. Yeah,
that's why at ringside when I saw her and you could see that desperation, like, let me in, coach, let me in. And I said, don't worry, it will come. And when it comes pretty freaking fast, right?
Yeah.
And there it is. So it was awesome. If you guys haven't listened to that interview, remember, you can get everything on youtube.com/AfterBuzzTV. Also on iTunes. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you put comments and stars. It really does help the show. I love reading the comments.
They're great.
Everyone has just been so genuinely, they're real, and then they are so appreciative of the show, and it makes me feel so good, because it makes me realize that we're doing something.
Well, and you have such awesome fans. Like, ever since I've come on this show, like, every time I get fans tweeting me that are fans of this show, I always love it. I mean, there are people that you've truly touched that tweet me all the time. There's a guy who, I forget his name, but he's literally tweeted me like 20 times asking to like let you know he said hi, and like there's some really cool fans that you have on there.
My fans are the best. I love you guys, and I just want to collect more. Right?
Yes.
I want my team. I call them my team. So you never have enough people on your team.
No.
But then you can also go to LilianGarcia.com, and everything is there for you from all the past episodes. And so let's go ahead. We're going to go ahead and go into wrestling news so that we can go ahead and bring you the interview, which, by the way, was audio. And it was because we were at his house, and I was doing this for him, like whatever makes it easier. Like, he wanted to come to the studio so bad, but he just can't make.
He's got the dogs, and he's got all.
It's more than that. It's all the projects that he's got.
He's
and
doing
we're
that.
in North Hollywood, and that is not anywhere close to Marina Del Rey.
No, not at all.
So I get it. So it's funny because I live in Marina Del Rey. So he's like, "Do you mind coming over?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, going down the street, man. That is just hard work." Anyway, we're going to be bringing in Ashley Daniels right now with your latest wrestling news.
What's up, party people? Roxy Stryer here from The Tomorrow Show with Kevin Undergaro. We're your twice-weekly broadcast of one man's midlife crisis and the mad millennials in Star Trek uniforms that follow him.
And I'm one of those millennials, Lauren Magrasso here. We've had some amazing guests like Russell Simmons, Ileana Douglas, and Craig Gass. Coolio, right?
Christian Blatt in the house to tell you to go to thetomorrowshow.com to check us out. We're live every Monday and Thursday from 10 to midnight Eastern. That's thetomorrowshow.com. Be there or be square, whatever that means.
Welcome back. This is your Making Their Way to the Ring wrestling news. And we're starting off tonight with some sad news for Emma.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, Emma hurt her shoulder during a 6-woman tag match where she took a bump in the shoulder from Sasha Banks. Now, this all went down in Liverpool on the UK Euro Tour, and not to be too alarmed because she's being optimistic. She tweeted about 4 hours ago saying, "Just a little unlucky. Thanks for all the messages. Waiting to see what it is."
Yeah, so,
Ryan, you know some details about this.
Yeah, so basically what I was told that we reported on the site yesterday was that, yes, it happened, and she has had issues with her shoulder in the past. She's had surgery on it, and I'm not sure if it's the same shoulder exactly, but she got checked out by WWE's medical staff afterwards, and right now they're just waiting on the official tests and results and all that kind of stuff before we find out whether or not she's going to be out for a certain amount of time. And if she is, it's such a bummer. She just came back.
I know, and I love Emma, but I'm really hoping, because she's got mic skills too, and she's got this attitude thing, which I'm actually glad that the whole Emelina thing didn't work out, because I really like Emma like this.
Same.
Right?
Yeah, 100%.
It just fits her. So I'm really hoping that she will stick around and maybe like manage or, do promos or something from one of the other girls or just, I don't know, just keep her on. But sometimes with injuries, they do not keep them on the road because imagine with the luggage and all, like her using that shoulder, like it's kind of, just kind of prolongs the injury.
That's interesting. I never really thought about that they can't.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be hard to travel like 10 hours on the road in the car with a hurt knee or something along those lines.
Exactly. Or like I said, you're hauling your luggage and you're trying to put it overhead and you've got a bad shoulder and you're like constantly asking for help, but sometimes there is no help. So I think that's one of those things that have to be careful with that.
That is something I've always wondered too, so that helps my mind. I've always wondered, like, why don't they utilize these people in other ways when they're injured and stuff? And that does make sense because recovery is so important when you get injured.
Well, you got to remember that everybody's driving themselves, right, into towns.
Yep.
Everyone's lives everywhere all over the U.S. Some of them live in the Bahamas. We all know. So everybody's coming in from all over the place, so they're not traveling necessarily together. Like, I travel by myself all the time. The first 7 years, Trish and I, but we kind of like met up. So you really don't have anybody's help on the road. So if you're banged up, you got crutches because of your knee and all of a sudden you got luggage too, doesn't work.
Now, based on your experiences just working with Emma and knowing her better than us, obviously, how was her mentality coming back from injury and stuff like that, or when she got injured initially?
Well, she was definitely bummed when she got injured. She did use that time to take photos, and oh my God, the photos are amazing.
I remember them. They were
gorgeous, gorgeous, and that's where Vince McMahon was like, "Whoa, I think she needs to be Emelina." But unfortunately,
we saw how that worked out.
Well, the thing is, it's like the photos are one thing, but her character and her personality are another. So I'm hoping that if she is going to be home, that she will use the time to do something else. And it usually ends up being helpful for people. Like, there's a silver lining. I always say that, focus on the silver lining.
Well, let's hope. Yeah, let's hope that it's not serious and she won't have to worry about that.
Yes. Wish you well.
Well, speaking of getting bummed, this is a kind of a bummer of a story. According to TMZ, WWE superstar Titus O'Neal allegedly flipped out and kicked the crap out of a cameraman after a prank gone wrong for a WWE Network show, and now he's being sued.
What?
This story made me so mad over the weekend.
Why?
Only because, well, first of all, the headline blew my mind because it says beat up a photographer or a camera guy or whatever.
Yeah.
He
didn't beat up anybody.
And I watched Swerved. I loved it, especially the first season. And I remember the whole basis for this prank was people were going around because it was the Jackass guys, for those of you who haven't seen it.
Right?
So yeah, it was like Jeff Tremaine and his crew or other wrestlers, and they were going around and tasing the wrestlers with a cattle prod.
Tasing.
With a cattle prod.
Hello.
So
of course, what's your reaction going to be?
Of course you're going to flip out and hit the camera or something like that.
But he didn't beat him up.
No, he didn't beat anybody up. If anything, he probably just freaked out in the moment because he had been tased and he hit the camera. And worst of all is, like, he was clearly a victim here. Like, and the story says beat up photographer, but then when you read the full story, it says that the photographer, after Titus O'Neal hit the camera, the photographer was told to leave in case Titus retaliated at all, which is like, so he didn't beat this guy up at all. They were smart and told him to leave.
Yeah, here's the thing too. Didn't this happen in 2015?
Yes.
Yeah.
2015.
Yes.
Why is this coming now to fruition? Because it's almost 2 years. Like, I think you have a 2-year window, right?
The only thing I can imagine.
Does this guy need money? Is he just trying to?
The only thing I can imagine of what someone would have done if it was legit is that if he really got his hand hurt and he's a camera guy and he can't work because his camera hand is injured, technically he could say he lost money from it, and that's because he's
but
suing
you
for,
still
like,
don't wait 2 years.
Yes, but actually, isn't he suing for like over $1 million?
2 million?
$1.2 million.
Like
yeah.
That's
a
ridiculous.
ridiculous sum. Like there's no way this camera guy was making that much money that he's out of wages. And why sue Titus O'Neal and not like the production company that he was working for?
Yeah, exactly. You know what? Let's just hope that everything just goes, because everybody's so happy in this world. It's really pathetic. Because there's legit lawsuits. There's legit lawsuits.
And I'm assuming there's actual proof of what happened here. It's on video.
It's on video.
There's multiple people, so
Right.
I'm sure it's going to go away.
I'm hoping
Yeah.
that it is the way we're thinking, that it was like nothing kind of deal. But I mean, if you're going to tase somebody, you got to know. You're going to get a reaction.
I do fear, though, that this will be the end of Swerve.
Oh, no.
I mean, I have no inside knowledge on that, but you know WWE, you work there. I have a feeling like if there was a lawsuit surrounding the show, they might maybe not
That
continue
would
on.
be so, that's the whole thing about being so politically correct, that everyone is so scared to do anything anymore. That shows like this, it's kind of Swerved as candid camera.
You
from
never
way
got
back
Swerved,
then.
right?
No, I never got
See,
Swerved.
I feel like that's why you have.
I didn't get Swerved.
Oh, I wouldn't do that in case they do come back, because then the next time you're there, they're gonna get you.
Oh boy. Yeah, I got Swerved like 8 times.
Oh, jeez. Well, let's get off the topic of
Yes.
Swerved and Lilian.
Yes.
Pretend that never happened. Let's get something more hopeful, because Chris Jericho says his recent run has been a career highlight, whether I come back or not. So he appeared on Busted Open yesterday and said the current run was supposed to end at WrestleMania. But we can all thank Vince, because he had the idea to have him stay a little bit longer. Jericho also added, whether I come back to the WWE or not, I'll always remember this year as one of the biggest highlights of my 27 years on the job.
Wow.
He's got to come back, right?
I know. Well, let me just say something. Jericho delivered in such a big way this year. So many great things happened. And I don't know if you guys heard the Mick Foley interview that I did. Well, I know you guys did. I'm talking to you over here. But I asked Mick Foley, we were talking about the list. I love the list.
Great.
Right? I want to make the list. And it was Mick Foley who told me the story about, basically, he was in catering, and he said something to Jericho, and Jericho told him, he grabs the clipboard from this guy that was walking by, one of the creative guys or writers or something, who was walking around with a clipboard, by the way. He grabs the clipboard, he looks at Mick Foley, he's like, Mick, you have made my list. And that was it. That's where it all began. It was awesome. And then from there, it just took a life of its own.
That's funny, because in this interview, he's kind of talking about all that, and I listened to it, and he basically said that the reason he enjoyed this run so much is because everything came so organically.
Yeah, exactly.
That the list thing just was kind of said, and everyone loved it, and they were able to roll with it, or like the stupid idiot thing where it was just something that was said once, and it just became it got a life of its own. And I agree with him. I honestly believe that this recent run was probably one of his best. I mean, obviously, he's had more when he was the Undisputed Champion, first came in, all that kind of stuff. So many. But I feel like in recent memory, like since he's been doing like the part-time thing, this one, even though it wasn't very part-time, this run, but this was a really, really entertaining run, especially because he came in and he put so many guys over in the process. I mean, if it wasn't for Jericho, AJ Styles might not be where he's at in the company right now.
Right?
And even Kevin Owens.
Kevin Owens. Oh, my God. I love that feud.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I
So
really...
let's pray. Let's hope.
Yeah, I really, just for SmackDown Live's sake and the WWE Universe, I hope he comes back. Please come back, Chris. And come on the show once.
Yes. Well, I haven't asked him yet. I need to ask him.
You
I
should.
need to ask him. I'm going to ask him.
You should.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm going to ask him.
I bet you he's in LA every once in a while.
Yeah. I don't know where his band's going to be touring, but I will definitely. And you guys can help out with that, too. There's a lot of people that actually have come on the show. They've even reached out to me saying, okay, my fans want me on your show. So you guys out there, make sure that you tweet Jericho and tell him that I want him on the show. Tell him that you want to see him on the show. I think it'd be very, very entertaining.
I see a lot of requests for Charlotte, too.
I do, too. I got to ask her as well. I know she's just so busy as well. But we're going to, there's just so many great people.
Hasn't even been 6 months yet.
Yes.
Right.
Today, Stone Cold. Okay, we're going to get to that.
Oh my
One more
gosh.
story, and then we're going to Stone Cold.
Yes,
Let's do
okay.
it.
So we're going to end the news on a bang, on a high note, because it's Monday. Let's make it happy. Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 2, blasted off with $145 million in box office. $1 million. Oh, I can't do it with my microphone. Okay. Oh, wait, it's the pinky. Okay.
There you go.
So James Gunn's second Guardians film opened 54% higher than the 2014 first one. And according to studio estimates Sunday, it was at 154 million. So that release, which introduced the intergalactic band of misfits played by Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Vin Diesel, and Bradley Cooper, debuted 94 million in its first weekend.
I love that we had an actual box office battle between two wrestlers. Like, we had The Rock still in there with the Fate of the Furious, and then Batista sliding in with Guardians of the Galaxy, and The Rock won. I mean, technically, they were number one this weekend, obviously. It was a huge opening.
Yes.
But I'm kind of surprised that The Rock's Fate of the Furious was still on top. Like, their opening weekend, I believe, was like 207 million, something like that.
I have got to catch up on movies. I've been so busy. I haven't seen a movie.
Well, that's good, though. Busy's good.
Well, busy's good. No, I'm really grateful, but I want to see these movies, and I'm just so grateful that I got to work with both of them, and both of them are so freaking humble. They deserve it. They've earned it.
I actually had some time in my hands this weekend, so I saw it twice.
Did you?
Oh, nice.
I saw it twice.
Was it good?
So good. I'm not going to spoil anything, but
because I love the first one.
Yeah, because I also loved the first one. And this one, especially as someone like you, Lilian, who loves music, I think it strikes the chord with people who love music a lot because it's put in there so well with all the songs that
all right, I'm going.
This soundtrack totally tops. It's on par with the last one, and I love the whole story. Honestly, I think they did a great job. And for those of you who haven't seen it yet, Batista 100% steals this movie.
Really?
Dude, 100%. Every big laugh is 90% of them are Batista.
Who would have thought that he'd been so funny?
He is hilarious.
That's what in the first movie I'm like, oh my god, he's got so much comedy, because you never really got to see that a lot at WWE, right?
No.
So yeah, I love it.
And I will say, like, because Chris Pratt had all the funny lines last time.
Yeah.
Batista, 100% Batista.
There was actually a poll that was put up on WrestlingInc.com about which movie they like better, Batista and Guardians or The Rock and Fate and the Furious. 51% went to Batista. So.
Well, there you go. Wow, they were right neck and neck.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's do that. Let's go.
Right.
Let's go see the movies
Definitely.
right after this interview. How about that?
Let's do
Works
it.
for me.
All right.
Well, okay. Well, this has been your Making Their Way to the Ring Wrestling News. I'm Ashley Daniels, your news and social media correspondent, and you can find me on Twitter at Ashley Daniels.
All righty. Thank you, Ashley. As always, you bring us the spiciest wrestling news. Well, actually, they're brought to you by our senior news producer, Ryan Satin.
But they're also still spicy stories, so it's good.
All right, Ashley, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Ryan, thank you. How excited are you about this?
I'll give you a hell yeah. I'm excited.
Hell yeah. Yeah, we did actually have a little beer afterwards, too.
When you go to his house, you have to. Did you try his beer?
Yes.
Yeah, you have to. I said the same thing. I was like, as soon as we were done recording, like, we're drinking now.
Yes, exactly. All right, so thank you so much. We will see you next week, next Monday. And for now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for the first part. And here is the second part, your Stone Cold Steve Austin interview. And we'll see you, remember, at Lilian Garcia. And don't forget that you can also follow Steve at Steve Austin BSR. Here you go. Growing up in a small Texas town, Steve Austin knew very early on he wanted to enter the world of professional wrestling when he watched Houston Wrestling and World Class Championship Wrestling. After attending the famous Sportatorium and watching top acts like the Von Erichs and the Fabulous Freebirds, he began training with Gentleman Chris Adams, thus beginning his professional wrestling journey. Years before he was stone cold, stunning Steve Austin made an immediate impact in World Championship Wrestling, winning the United States and television titles, and alongside his close friend Brian Pillman, won the Tag Team Championship. After getting released from WCW, he joined ECW, where the seeds of his stone cold character were planted. In 1996, Steve Austin joined the WWE, where he was named the Ringmaster, but within months convinced management to be renamed to the much-fitting Stone Cold Steve Austin. And in June of that year, he won the King of the Ring, which was followed by a groundbreaking promo, and combined with his unforgettable WrestleMania 13 match, catapulted his career into superstardom. His Austin 316 shirt quickly became one of the best-selling t-shirts of all time, and according to Vince McMahon, Stone Cold Steve Austin became the biggest draw in the history of the WWE. Along with headlining multiple WrestleManias, Steve Austin is a 3-time Royal Rumble winner, a feat that has yet to be matched, and has won the WWE Championship 6 times. Stone Cold Steve Austin was forever enshrined when he headlined the Hall of Fame class of 2009. He has stayed in the wrestling scene by appearing in many memorable WrestleMania moments alongside Rowdy Roddy Piper, Hulk Hogan, and The Rock, even giving a Stone Cold Stunner to President Donald Trump. In addition to appearing in movies such as The Longest Yard, The Condemned, and Grown Ups 2, he has also hosted Tough Enough, Redneck Island, and the Broken Skull Challenge. He currently hosts 2 highly popular podcasts a week and spends his free time with his beautiful wife, Kristen. It's about to get real, raw, and inspiring with Stone Cold Steve Austin. All right, guys. Well, as you see it, it is happening. With me right now is none other than Stone Cold Steve Austin. Welcome to Making Their Way to the Ring.
I'm making my way to my house next door and I'm moving all my stuff in. It doesn't feel like I'm going to the ring. Normally when I used to go to the ring, Lilian, there's a gigantic adrenaline rush. Right now it's just frustration, trying to get everything settled back in the remodel. I'm happy it's about 99% over and it's good to see your smiling face.
Yeah, well, I know that we actually live in Marina Del Rey together, and you were telling me how you were moving.
Well, we don't live together, we live separate.
Well, you know what I mean?
You live right down the road from me.
Yeah, let's make sure and clarify that.
Better check with my wife on that one.
So, yeah. But you are doing remodeling and,
You're blushing.
oh my God. And
I am too.
yeah, how do you you've decided you're staying in LA, obviously.
Well, I'm going to be here for another couple of years. You know, we sold a ranch down in Texas, 1,500 miles each way. It just got to be a little too much. After 10 years of doing it, it was just time to say, hey man, if we can get rid of this and try to get something a little bit closer, we'll be able to enjoy it a little bit more often and not do so much work going and coming. And, you know, each year I go down there for deer season, and we're down there for about 6 or 7 weeks straight. And when you totally move your life from LA back to Texas, I mean, remote South Texas,
right.
That's a blast for me because I'm somewhat of a hermit and I love to be in the outdoors. But for my wife, who loves her Zumba and all the other things, she's a little bit more social than I am and very independent. She has her things that she likes to do. But she's in with me on that ranch. She loves it just as much as I do, or did. It was just time to sell that thing and find something a little bit closer. So yeah, I'm rooted into Los Angeles for another couple years. And I don't want to sound like I'm a Texas sellout. I still have property in Texas, and that's, you know, home is where the heart is. And right now I live in Los Angeles. It helps facilitate podcasts, as you found out, just like I'm doing with my podcast. It does facilitate business, and you can never complain about the weather here. Out of all the places that I've been, Lilian, I think Southern California, LA, this Marina Del Rey area has the best weather I've ever seen. Now, there's some, you know, the traffic, the BS and all that other stuff. You put up with it so you can enjoy the weather, but it's a means to an end, and I'll look for another place down the road.
Yeah, if I didn't have the app Waze, have you tried that one?
My wife's big on Waze. I just get Siri and I just say, give me some directions. My wife's always getting mad at me. She goes, no, Waze is better. So I don't know.
It always helps me. Actually, it really takes you through some of the back roads, so you get to see LA in a whole new way.
Hey, check it out. When I first came to LA, it was about 13 years ago now, and I just had on, remember those old school GPSs that you put the sunset up on your window?
Garland or something.
Yeah, Garmin. And
Garmin,
so, man, I'd call my wife, and because Garmin would give me some directions, and I'm like, man, I know Kristen knows a better route than this. So I'd be calling her on the phone, and here's my exit. Garmin's telling me I got to turn, and I'll say, Kristen, I'm going to so-and-so, and Garmin's telling me to take a right. She goes, no, don't do that. There's a better route. So she kept overriding Garmin, so then I just trash canned Garmin and started calling my wife, and then Siri came along. Thank God for Siri.
I love it. No, actually, I appreciate you taking the time, and you were telling me how busy you are. What do you got going on right now?
I'm fixing to go do some stuff, filming some stuff, which I can't talk what it's about, but I'm fixing to start filming for that. And I'm thinking, I've really got a strong feeling that we're going to start filming a Broken Skull Challenge here pretty quick.
Really?
And it's really just coming in and taking care of all this remodel stuff.
Yeah.
I've been behind on my podcast, so it's just a bunch of things like that.
Right.
I mean, so I can't really talk about all of them. They're top secret. Did you know that most of the stuff I do is top secret? I'm lying to you. It's just stupid stuff like that, and
Yeah.
some commitments I have with Cold Steel and El Segundo Brewing Company and some other stuff.
Yeah, because you got that. How's your beer doing?
It's doing great, and people are loving it, and I'm proud of it. I've always wanted to be in the beer business, and I don't know if you know the story, but back in the day, we were going to come out with Stone Cold beer.
I wondered that. I was sitting there ringside, and I remember Mark throwing you these. Was it Bud Light?
We threw everything
Oh,
back in the
everything,
day.
yeah.
We went through everything because we'd stick with one brand for a little bit, and I'd like, hey man, we're giving these people too much love. You know,
Yeah.
that's good publicity.
Right.
Stone Cold out there pounding beers. But we started talking with Genesee Brewing back in the day, and we were going to come up with Stone Cold beer. And I told this story the other day, but that was about the time I took my hiatus out of Atlanta, and that wasn't a great move, the worst move of my life, and that pretty much killed that beer deal. So, to be in business with El Segundo Brewing Company with my IPA, that's where my taste buds have gone, and that's what I
Yeah.
drink now. And so it's cool. And it's cool to do, as proud as I am of my Stone Cold Steve Austin career with WWE, it's neat to do something as Steve Austin on the independent level, by yourself. And so
Yeah.
obviously Stone Cold still helps sell that
Yeah.
beer, but it's cool.
Because you got like 3 major things. I mean, besides the movies, but you also have the Broken Skull knife,
Yeah.
which is awesome. It's just cool because it's not like you're flooding the market with something that's so it's like something that belongs to you. In other words,
All the stuff that I'm doing now is like passion projects.
Yeah, they
like
fit
Broken Skull
you.
Challenge. I love that show. And
That
like
too,
acting,
let's
I don't
talk
really
about
care about acting because
don't care about acting?
No, because just the memorization process. I mean,
Ah.
for me to be on set, and going through the paces, and hitting your marks, doing another take, and then someone else's coverage. I probably did 10 or 12 movies, and it was fine, while we were doing them. Get the helicopters over there, running down the road where you're at.
it's okay. In
Part of
LA,
the
you got
show.
helicopters, you got cops and
being on a set is not fun for me. And don't get me wrong, if the right gig came along, I'd
Yeah.
consider doing it. I
Yeah.
don't mean to sound like a jerk, but people always think just because you came out of wrestling and you did a few movies, like, oh man, you need to do more movies. Well, it depends on, I don't really want to do more movies, but
Yeah.
people always think this is what you should do. What I should do is what I'm doing. My partnership with El Segundo Brewing Company, Cold Steel Knives, Kawasaki, some of the other things, Broken Skull Challenge, my relationship with CMT, and I'm still a part of WWE.
Yeah.
I still keep in contact with a lot of the guys and girls and Vince and Triple H and everybody. So I'm still, in with the WWE. I want to do things that I like to do because I busted my ass for a long time and
Yeah.
saved my money. I'm not the richest guy but I save my money. I don't spend money. And after busting my ass to be able to pick and choose now, I pick and choose what I want to do.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, with WWE, I don't know why there's so many times that I've wondered, like Kurt Angle coming back for GM. I just feel like Stone Cold any day. They're going to announce a GM, he's going to be there. Is it something you'd like to do, or is it because of the traveling?
You hit it right on the head. I don't like to travel anymore, Lilian. It's like when I was still in WWE in my days before that, because I, give or take, in the business 13 or 14 years till my neck crapped out and I got out of the business. I love being on the road back in the day. You're a road warrior. You're addicted to the road. And all of a sudden you're out there, you've been out the road for 10, 14, whatever, more days, and you're thinking, God dang, man, I really want to go home. And then you get home and you're there for about a day and a half, and you're like, man, I'm ready to get back on the road. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's in your blood. But once you get out of the business, and it took me 3 years to getting out of the business, and I won't tell that story because I've told it so many times, but my point is, when you're in the business of being on the road with WWE, you're a road warrior, and that's what you do. That's your life,
Yeah.
and you love it. And I'm very passionate about the business. It's what I wanted to do with my life. That's the only thing I wanted to do. Didn't want to come out here and get into acting. I did it because I had to get out of the business of pro wrestling. But my point is, when you turn back into what I call civilian mode, you kind of lose all that interest in traveling. And I used to travel to Georgia and shoot a reality television show for CMT called Redneck Island. We shot 3 seasons down in Mexico. I'm down there for a month. Man, that's awesome.
Right.
On the beach and all the stuff they have down there. 2 seasons in Lake Hartwell, Georgia. I got a crib on the lake. I got my jet ski there. That's awesome. But I mean, picking up town to town to town to town. Because you've done the gigs just like I have.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy that anymore. So each Monday I don't want to show up at a different town in the United States or across overseas just because, man, I've been there and I did it and I'm kind of done with it.
It sounds so glamorous to other people, and then when they start doing it,
I'm shaking my head because it sounds glamorous. And like I said, I love the business, but I'm over the business.
Right, yeah, because what people don't understand, like I always wondered, I'm like, man, the chairs of the the airplane already beat me up, the different cars and all of that. And then I always admired you guys. I'm like, man, and I didn't sit there and be beat up in the ring. I didn't even know how the heck you guys did it for so long.
But you're having so much fun. And so I don't want to sound like an old curmudgeon because I'm not. I just said I've gotten out of the business. And you got to remember, I got out in 2003, Lily, and this is 2017. It's 14 years ago. So I'm kind of over it.
Right.
And but again, I love to watch the pay-per-views.
Yeah.
I'll try to DVR Raw and SmackDown so I can kind of loosely keep up. And I'm a big fan of all the guys and the girls and see what the girls have done with the women's division. It's just so awesome. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
And so see what the guys are doing. So I love the business. I just like watching them do it. But to your point, it looks glamorous on TV. And when you are a professional wrestler or a sports entertainer and you're, in feet first, you're living, eating, sleeping the business. Hey, it's a blast to be out on the road with some of the best guys you could ever meet in your life, partying and wrestling and entertaining people and drawing money. And sometimes, when a house ain't no good, it's like, hey, man, house sucks today. You're getting paid on that house. So, man, you're just totally immersed and invested. And so I'm out of that now, and I like to watch. And I'm a big fan of all the guys and girls that are in the business, and I wish them all the best.
Yeah, we talked about that. We went over a few of, the other day, breaking down Payback, breaking down the pay-per-view.
Hey, can I tell that story? I was walking my dog, and Lilian sent me a text message, and we'd been talking about me being on her podcast for a while. Yeah. And I said, yeah. I said, I'm really swarmed with things going on right now. I said, I'll give you a call whenever I slow down. And she finally sent me another text message.
I didn't quit.
I called Lily, and I said, listen, I'm not very good with text messages. I don't want to kayfabe you because we're such good friends. Yeah. I said, I really have so much stuff going on right now. You'll see when you go there. But I wanted to be on your show, and so I just got caught up with everything.
Oh, that's okay. That's all right. We're here, which is awesome. Yeah. And you say that we've been. God, I realized. I got in the business in 1999, so I've known you for 17 years now, or 18 years. I don't know that I ever told you this story, and maybe I think I did. That's right, I did. But it was so long ago. I'm sure you don't remember it, but I remember it. Because the very first time, now everybody knows that I loved wrestling when I was growing up. I watched it with my dad religiously. I was watching Ric Flair and Andre the Giant. Dad surprised me and took me to the Township Auditorium in South Carolina, where I grew up after Madrid. And then I fell out of wrestling, like most people do when you go to school and all of that. Well, I started mentoring, doing a mentorship program, and I started mentoring this little boy, Joel. And in our mentoring program, they taught me how to do this. I would write him a letter in a book. First thing he would do is come in, grab the book, and then he would write me back. And so it was a whole conversation that was happening in this book between he and I, and no words were spoken on that. Very first day that happened, and I was like, my name is Lilian, I'm going to be your new mentor, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, what are the things that interest you? He wrote an entire page about you. And at that time, because I wasn't watching the product at that time, I didn't know who Stone Cold Steve Austin was, right? So I'm reading this, and I'm like, oh my God, I totally grew up on WWE. Like, this is so cool. I want to totally know who the new characters are and everything. Well, we ended up having conversations about you. And then I finished my mentoring program, and it was about 2 months later that I ended up working with this company, which is so crazy how things happen, right? And so I remember announcing you that night, and I remember little Joel. Well, I brought him finally to New York, and I asked you, I told you that, the story about him, and I said, would you mind if he met you? And you were like, oh, absolutely, no problem. Him and his little sister came backstage. This little boy was glowing to no end. He was just so happy. And I was sitting there thinking, oh my God, this was from me mentoring, the conversation in the book, all of this happening. So how does it feel for you to know that you have affected so many children's lives? Like, these conversations are happening without you even knowing.
Man, it's pretty cool. I'll get a lot of emails to, my email address for my podcast. And, man, literally a couple every week about people that I affected, or they got to live vicariously through the actions of Stone Cold Steve Austin. And, whether it was like, I don't know, just eating disorder, being bullied.
Yes.
Single parent households, or some people that just lived in a home, but for some reason, they found strength in that Stone Cold Steve Austin character. I mean, it's very flattering. And, I worked my tail off to be successful in what I chose to do in my life, which was professional wrestling. And I had so much fun doing it. And the fact that I could really make a change or inspire somebody or give somebody strength, courage, whatever you want to call it, or it's really, really cool, and I'm very proud of that. And while you're doing it, I'm not driving down the road thinking, okay, how am I impacting people's lives here? I just kicked the crap out of Vince tonight. And, maybe someone who's not doing so well somewhere will see that and have a smile on their face. You're not thinking about that.
Right.
It's all these years later, you get these emails from people that were watching you 10, 15, 20 years ago, and they found strength through me or some of the other WWE characters or whoever it was in their life. So it's really cool to be able to do that.
Yeah. And now you were born, because I really want to know more about you. I know that you were born in Austin, Texas.
Yep.
And you're one of 5, right? You have 3 brothers and your sister. Where are you in there?
Okay, Scott is 2 years older than me, and then there's me, and then there's Kevin, who's 10 months younger than me. Now, we were born in Austin. James Anderson is our father, biologically. So my mom, Beverly, and James get a divorce. My
mom, you were 1, right?
No, I was probably in 2, 3.
Oh, 2 or 3. Okay.
Yeah, give or take 4,
but young.
maybe.
We
were young. I remember James. And so she moves down to Victoria, Texas. And Victoria is kind of between Houston and Corpus. And so she meets Ken Williams. And Ken Williams is an insurance man, and he plays in a dance band on Friday and Saturday nights. And he played lead guitar, and he sang. So anyway, my mom's a telephone operator. She meets Ken Williams, and they fall in love, and they get married. And then they have 2 other kids, Jeff and Jennifer, who's the baby of the family. And in our family, the way we've come up and the way we've grown together, Ken Williams is my stepfather, technically, but I don't look at him as being that. We know there's no blood there, but he's my dad.
Yeah.
Taught me everything I know. I got my genetics from my real dad, but he's my dad. And as far as Jeff and Jenny goes, we don't say half brother in our family. We're all in. So
that's awesome.
Thankfully, everyone is still here. Everybody's still alive. We get together on Christmas and stuff like that. But we grew up a real close family. And my dad being an insurance man, and my mom used to hang wallpaper and stuff like that. And we just grew up all middle class. We never had a truckload of money, but we were never dirt poor. We were always just able to get by. And then my father was an avid outdoorsman, still is. And he's the one that got us hunting, fishing, involved in sports and cheered us on. And of course, my mom, I'm probably, out of all my brothers and my sister, and more like my mother than anyone else.
In what way?
Stubborn as hell. I will chop my nose off to spite my face. If you piss me off, that's not good.
So is that what happened in Atlanta?
That's what happened. And it was a real stupid decision to fast forward there and go back to my family.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I heard about doing the favors, from Jim Ross, and I was in a hotel and I heard that information, and I worked with Flair in Columbus, Georgia that night in a cage, and the next night was Monday Night Raw in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And then so I called Vince that night, and people have heard the story a million times, and I didn't like the creative. I was burned out, and there had been a couple of real weird things that I thought were roadblocks thrown at me that didn't make sense from a booking standpoint. When you have an extremely hot talent who's selling tickets and merchandise like crazy, you just kind of keep throwing gasoline on them. And I thought this was a roadblock, unadvertised, all about trying to help the next guy up. But right now, we're running strong with me. So anyway, that's when I took my ball and went home. And if it hadn't been for Jim Ross, who knows what would have happened. But yeah, I got everything from my mom from that standpoint. And also, I can't sing. I always wanted to be a rock and roll singer. and I can't sing. And my dad, well, Ken, plays guitar and he can sing, but I didn't get any musical ability. He tried to teach me how to play guitar. I was too lazy to apply myself. A bass guitar, same thing. Couldn't sing, so that killed me. And they wouldn't buy me. The one thing that they wouldn't buy me, with all the support that they've shown me my entire life, was they weren't going to buy me a drum kit. Because I was going to be in there beating the hell out of those damn things, and they were going to put up with that racket. And I probably would have quit that too. God dang it, Lillian, I love football. I played football, played baseball, track. But once I got my, sights set on being a pro wrestler, that's what I wanted to be. So the music thing disappeared, and I got to live my dream of being a pro wrestler.
Yeah, and I definitely want to touch on it, but I don't want to throw away this whole thing in Atlanta, because I want to know, though, why do you say that was the biggest mistake?
Because it was stupid. I mean, here I am talking to Jim. He gives me creative. I don't like it. So then, he calls the old man, and old man tells Jim, tell Steve to call me no matter what time it is. Give me a call. Because we got TV. This is live Monday Night Raw. So I call Vince 2 a.m. at morning, his time, and he tells me the same creative. And I'm thinking, as you and me are sitting here eye to eye, face to face, and I'm thinking, all right, so that's what we're going to do. All right. Well, you can't read my mind, but you can look at me. I don't like what I'm hearing.
Right.
So I was just thinking, okay, the tone of my voice. It was stupid. What I already knew right then. I already knew right then I was going to get on an airplane, book my flight, and fly back to San Antonio, and just tell them F you. What I should have done was gone to the building, man to man, face Vince McMahon, and said, hey, I really don't like that, and here's why I don't like that. I said, I'm extremely hot right now, and I want Brock to do well, and you've got a real blue chipper right there. He's an absolute phenomenal freak, and he's very charismatic. He's going to draw a lot of money, but not right now. It's my time, and we need to do something else. And if you do want to do that match, well, let's promote it, let's build it, and let's make something of it, and then make some money on a pay-per-view. And so I should have went there and talked to Vince, man-to-man, face-to-face, and settle it, rather than taking my damn ball and going home. It was the dumbest thing I could ever do.
But what do you think if you would have done that? And I agree. I think that people should. But every situation is different too. Like everyone.
You got to be there.
Every situation is different. You can't. Like you feel like
when you're going down the road and you're busting your ass and you're the first guy there and the last guy to leave and you're putting ass in seats.
Absolutely.
And all of a sudden you feel like someone's effing with you. It's like, hey man, it's almost like you would. I mean, here's the thing. You would think, or I would think, or I was thinking then. Okay, guys, third generation promoter. Don't he feel like he's infringing on me, or he doesn't think I'm gonna take this loss personally? We all know what the business is,
right.
But when you're living it, and you got to protect your gimmick or protect yourself, and it's all about the company. But you've got to have some self protection devices built in, and if you don't look out for yourself, nobody else will.
Right.
I just thought it was a stupid idea. I thought he should have known better. Didn't mean to cut you off, but that's how I felt about it. But when I look back, in retrospect, the dumbest damn thing I ever did.
If you would have confronted him and he still would have been adamant about that, then would you have felt
He wouldn't have been adamant about it if I'd have showed up.
You don't think so?
No, man. Hell, we did that in England one time. I was supposed to work with a Big Show, and Vince said, oh, yeah, I think Big Show's going to go over tonight. And Big Show tells a story real funny. This was back when I was using chewing tobacco. I don't recommend it to anybody. I was sitting there spitting in a water bottle, and Vince had laying down to finish, and as Big Show would say with his accent, and I said to Vince, I don't think these people are going to come from all over the UK to come over here and see Big Show beat Stone Cold Steve Austin. I think they come here to see Stone Cold give Big Show a stunner. And sure enough, that's what we ended up doing. So all I had to do was show up and look Vince eye to eye, and he would have known how I felt. And I would have said, hey, man, this is why that's not a good decision. And he would have, fine, pal. And trust me, the relationship I have with Vince right now is outstanding. My relationship has always been outstanding, except due to those few circumstances where I just don't communicate so well. I should have communicated my thoughts. I should have conveyed my thoughts there on the phone. But first thing, for sure, I should have showed up at that building and let's just, hey, man, let's talk about this.
What you learned in that situation, has that helped you in the future, any other situation that you crossed and you're like, I better not do that because that's what I did here. It didn't work. And
Well, I've matured. You got to understand, when I had to leave the business, I was only 38.
Yeah.
And this was 4 or 5 years before that probably. And even at that age, I should have been more mature than I was mature in any other respect as far as, hey, man, this is what I need to do, this is what I have to take care of. But, caught up in the moment and being that guy that just rubbed me the wrong way. But to your point, to answer your question, absolutely, it's helped me, make decisions. And I'll never forget the advice that Leon White gave me a long time ago in WCW as Big Van Vader. He goes, Steve, always let a cooler head prevail, And he goes, think about things before you make a knee-jerk reaction, because I'm real bad about making a knee-jerk reaction. These days, I'll think about the knee-jerk reaction, but I won't do it. I'll think it through before I do anything. And that just comes with being around, being in more situations where you can say, okay, man, you really screwed up the last time. Let's think about this. Let's be a little bit smarter about it. And I've talked to some people in the business that have been kind of where I've been. Maybe we've all gone down different roads in the same career, but everything's different. You can see how some people just get caught up and worked up, and I always call it getting worked up into a shoot. You take this way, and it's real to you, but it's a world of make-believe.
Right.
But the decisions affect you. But in business, be very thoughtful and mindful and make hay, while the sun is shining, while you're still healthy, while you have a great relationship with the company, and just conduct business professionally. I was not professional in that setting at all.
Yeah. So have you been able to help? You said you've been able to talk to people and help them along the way. Like if somebody called you, if you ever held your door open where you're like, I don't know, let's say Seth Rollins or something wants advice. Are you like one of those guys?
I'm open to anybody.
Yeah?
Yeah, the people that have my phone number, and it's easy to get if you're in the locker room. I've talked to a lot of people. I'll never mention any names. I don't talk to a whole lot of people. In its totality, since I've been in the business, have I talked to a lot of people to give them my advice over either booking, gimmicks, work style, comebacks, heel, baby, nuances. Just anything as far as trying to advance them or help them understand a concept about the business. Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people. And I really enjoy doing that. And I've been wanting to go down to NXT to talk to those kids down there.
Oh, that would be amazing.
It's just a pain in the neck to get down to Florida. But one of these days I will. But to answer your question, absolutely. I talk to people all the time because I feel like when you come out of the business, you should give back to the business and help that younger generation. Because when you look at it, if you look at the current locker room, okay, and I'm not being a big head about this or trying to brag on what I've done, because I never talk about my wrestling career unless someone brings it up. But I actually drew money. And when I got into business,
there's no denying.
When I got into business, I was making $15 a night. So I started at the very bottom and I ended up at the very top.
Yeah.
So I've kind of seen a lot of things, and I've been heel and I've been a baby, and I've been, a stranger to Vince and a great friend with Vince. So I've seen a lot of highs and lows, and I can offer some good advice because on a lot of things I have been there and I have done it. So if someone wants my opinion, I always want to be able to convey it to them so that, like I said, going back to that locker room setting, there's not a lot of guys in that locker room who've done what I've done.
No.
And, to someone else's point, there's some things that I haven't done. Or like a Shawn Michaels, as good, I was a good worker. Shawn was a phenomenal worker. So he would see a few things different than I would at a top guy level. So we would both have very valuable input or information for anybody that wanted to pick our brains. I think we would probably specialize in different areas.
Do you think that there's a way for you to do something like that without having to travel?
Oh, man,
have you suggested that at all? Because I think it'd be phenomenal.
Well, you just brought up a good point. I heard that they had some type of system where they can just walk into a booth and just cut a promo, and like all of the office will see it. In Stamford, Connecticut, they have so much technology over there. So you could really set up like a Skype conference with someone and have a face-to-face conversation with them. Yeah. I'm not offering that up. I'm just saying you can do that. No, but just because you brought it up.
Yeah, what I'm saying is I think that is something definitely that should be looked at because you have so much knowledge. You have not only knowledge in the ring, even when we speak about the other day when we were talking about Payback, but you also, it's the thing that I saw about just doing promos. And nobody ever handed you a list of what were you going to say. You had the bullet points.
Right before I got out, they did. When I came back from my neck surgery, that's kind of when that system kind of started really coming into play. In those last few years, I got away with it because you couldn't tell that I was doing it. But that's kind of that the system changed, and I just kind of adapted or adopted the system that they were throwing at me. Mm-hmm. But I always felt a little like I was maybe shortchanging myself or the business by doing that. But that's what the system became. So it is what it is. I can understand why they kind of want to, script some things, but god dang, not to book the territory or criticize or critique the business. I just love Lilian back in those old days, and then here's that old. Everybody's going, oh, back in the old days.
No, it's the
just the
Attitude Era that was
spontaneity.
awesome.
The spontaneity.
Absolutely.
When you're on live TV, it should be, god dang, man, this is live. Anything can happen. Well, they're still live. Anything can happen, but it's very micromanaged and gone over to so much detail. It's like the chances are nothing is going to happen that's not supposed to happen. But when you have that feeling, it's like, god dang, man, Steve's coming back, Stone Cold's coming back on Raw tonight. I don't know what he's going to say. Mm-hmm. Well, we know what he's going to say right now. Not too much because they're going to hand him a script and say, go say this.
Yeah.
There was one time I went to do a podcast. I think it was in Colorado somewhere. I can't remember what it was. And they wanted me to go out there and introduce The Undertaker. They gave me a little script, 4 lines on it. Hey, if you're ready for Monday Night Raw, give me a hell yeah. Hey, I'm going to introduce Undertaker, something like that. And one other line. It's 4 lines. And I said, really? This is what you got from me? I'm here to do a podcast. You got me live, and this is all you got from me? Wow. And, I just said, you know what? I'm traveling. Don't really care to travel. Right. But I'm here to do the gig. I'm really here to do the gig. You get this dumped on top of me. Yeah, I'll go in there and spit out these, I changed the word there for you. Yeah. I can spit out these 4 sentences for you, but I'd rather do it my way and jazz it up a little bit. So I followed the protocol, went out there and did the job that they asked me to do, went back and did a podcast, and went home.
So you did do the 4 lines?
Like the 4 lines.
Do you think that maybe whoever handed that to you just didn't know?
No, I know from where it came from. But see, it's like when you look at the way Stone Cold Steve Austin was always in character towards, when I started being confrontational with Vince, I was always anti-authority. So when they started bringing me back and just kind of, hey, go out there and smile. Hey, but that's not what Stone Cold does. I go out there and raise hell. I stomp mud holes in people and I walk them dry. All of a sudden, you want me to go out there and give you 4 generic lines and I can't put no salt, pepper, mustard, mayonnaise on it? You're cheating the people. Right. And you're treating me like a jabroni. And if I can't go out there and be the Stone Cold Steve Austin that I grew up to, and perfected to be, take your 4 lines and stick them. Right. But that was me just following the program. I raised enough hell back in the day that I didn't want to buck the system. So it's like, if you're not going to let me be Stone Cold, I ain't got no business showing up.
Yeah. Why do you think, though, that was given to you that way? And not given to you like, hey, go do your thing. We know that you can.
I don't have any idea. I don't want to sit there and turn this to a whole piss and moan situation, but, people... I love my time has come and my time is gone. I'd love to offer advice to people,
Yeah. I'm just wondering if maybe the writers, like, they're so programmed into doing that now, right? That's their job, to write out this and that or whatever. Who knows if maybe that they're going, well, we better handle something. I tell you what, I can tell you one thing. You can count the guys that drew big money on 3 fingers or 2 fingers or whatever. I'm one of those guys. Yes. I kind of know what I'm doing. Absolutely. Let me go do it. Absolutely. Yeah, don't treat me like a jabroni. You want to fly me some town, you want to stick a mic in my hand, just say, Steve, go light them up. I'll go light them up. Right. And I'll be happy doing it. But if you're going to micromanage me, good luck. Yeah. Have you gone back since that time? Was that the last time that you went? That was the last time I went in front of the camera. Other than 32 in Dallas. Right. Oh, yeah, I do. Okay. Were you able to be you there?
I did what they wanted to do.
Still.
Yeah.
Wow, your stubbornness is like really been.
Well, now it's like, okay, that's all you want me to do? 2 point.
Yeah. Now you know that too, time is involved and everything too, in that timing of the show, as you know.
Oh, absolutely.
But for me, I would think that they could say, you've got 5 minutes, go do your thing. And that's all that you need to do, right?
Correct.
That's it.
Yeah, but let's move on because I'm in a good place with these folks. But you're asking me, and you're a great interviewer, and I'm telling you quite candidly, I don't like to be effed with if I show up on TV and someone tell me what to say.
I get that.
Yeah.
I totally get that. So we left off with your football career. I'm really curious about that because you said that, or I had found out that you had a scholarship actually.
Hell, I had to get a scholarship because if I didn't, I couldn't afford to go to school. Our deal in our family in Edna, Texas, we lived in Victoria and then we moved to Edna, and that's where my parents still live, and my brother and my sister, they're nearby. But our deal in our household was when you turned 18, when you graduated from high school, within a month or two, your ass is gone. You got to get out of the house because you got to go, you're an adult now. You go do something. Mm-hmm. And so my older brother, Scott, he worked his ass off in the summer jobs like we always did. And he went up to Kilgore Junior College. I think he went to college for 2 or 3 years. He paid for everything on his own. And we didn't have no money to put everybody through college. Hell, that's 5 kids. And I know people these days do it, and more power to them. But we weren't in a position to do that back in the day. So I knew that if I wanted to go to the next level, I needed to get a scholarship. So I got a junior college scholarship. And I was insulted. I thought the pride of South Texas, number 32, Steve Williams, fullback and linebacker, I thought I had D1 written all over me.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, well, that's what you think. Back when you're growing up, you think you're pretty damn good. Well, I was good for Edna, Texas, playing 2 and 3A ball,
right.
100 miles south of Houston. Had we been living in Houston, and I'd have been in that system with all those premier grade A D1 athletes, I know I would have been on the field playing linebacker for sure because I love to hit, but I like running the ball more. But I wasn't fast enough to run the ball in Houston. But in Edna, I ran north and south, and I wasn't fast enough to run east or west, and I carried people down the field. I remember telling my mom's friend, I told her, I said, Evelyn, it'll be all right. I said, I'll go to Wharton County Junior College. I'll make All-American in a couple of years and get a scholarship to a big school. Hell, I didn't even make all conference, and I started. But, I mean, you find out when you go to the JC level that there's a lot of guys there that just ain't got the smarts to get into a big school, or maybe have a learning disability or dyslexia or something like that, so they have something that they can't overcome. Yeah. But God dang, there's some badasses playing JC football. So anyway, played 2 years there, and I got 2 full scholarship offers to big schools. University of New Mexico in Albuquerque. I took that visit. They offered me a full ride. University of North Texas in Denton, Texas offered me a full scholarship. I took that visit. Deciding between the two, I knew that I didn't want to leave the great state of Texas. University of New Mexico Lobos, I passed on that one, enrolled in Denton, and I was in Denton, Texas in 86, 87 for those 2 seasons, and paid for one more year by myself after my scholarship ran out. I was working on the freight dock full time. And then with 17 hours to graduate, I decided, being burned out of school, I decided to stop my educational process. And that really crushed my parents because I would have been the first kid to graduate from college with a 4-year degree, 17 hours short of a physical education degree. I started off as a business major, but that algebra 1 and 2, or just college algebra, just kicked my ass, and I just didn't understand it. And other than that, I was a pretty good student. Yeah. Anyway, so 17 hours short PE degree, I quit, and that's when I started working full-time on a freight dock, driving a forklift, manual labor, and that's when I started going down. Well, I've been going down to the Sportatorium watching the Von Erichs fight the Freebirds. And then I went back and I saw a commercial on television for Chris Adams Wrestling School, and that's when I decided I'm going for my dream when we get into business.
Wow. So were you sorry? Do you look back and do you wish that you would have finished college?
Hell no, I ain't got nothing to do with no college degree. I always tell people when I'm talking to youngsters, helicopter.
Are you sure that helicopter's not looking for you, buddy?
I'll tell you what, there's a helicopter circling around over here because people do stupid stuff over here all the time, and those, it'll always be dark, and those things will just circle, and the spotlight shining down. I'm like, man, well, the other day, right over at the Harley Davidson shop, some lady grabbed her kid and ran in there, and the cops came in there, and she had kidnapped her kid from school or something.
Oh, that's great.
Anyway, what was the question you asked?
So I was wondering about, whether you were sorry that you didn't finish.
No, I don't need no.
Like, what do you tell kids though?
I don't need no 4-year degree. But what I tell kids is, man, knowledge is power. The more skills, the more smarts, the more tricks up your sleeve or tools in the toolbox you got, the better off you are. A college diploma will open a lot of doors for you. An ag trade. I mean, a mechanic school, welding school. Anything, any kind of learning, any kind of
I agree.
tool set that you can bring to the table will make you more valuable. So I highly stress that anybody try to achieve the highest level education that you can. But as far as it pertains to my life at 52, I kind of, you know what? I don't need a piece of paper at this point in my life just to say, hey, Steve, you got your degree. It don't mean nothing to me.
No, I get that. I'm not even suggesting that. I feel like because you were only 17 hours short, you really did go to college.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you did. It was more than 3/4. So you got the experience. Because, I went to college as well. I did graduate, and people ask me about that, whether it was worth it or not. And I'm going, yeah, you know what? There was a lot of stuff that I learned. And not even necessarily is it all book smart. Right? There's other things that you learn in college, too. And just even having the discipline to get up and go to classes, and you don't want to go to classes, but you do it.
Well, that's half the importance of the degree. Most people, when they graduate, well, I'll say a lot of people when they graduate from college, they get a job doing something that doesn't even apply to their diploma, but it was a diploma, the fact that they were committed to the 4-year or whatever it took to put into work to get that degree, which says to your potential employer, hey, this person has a college degree. We know that they understand protocol, due diligence,
discipline,
homework.
Yes.
Everything goes with it.
Yes.
So, yeah, it'll open a lot of doors for you.
Absolutely. So, with football then, when did you know it was?
Oh, I knew my junior year. I was ready to quit. I blew my ACL out running down on kickoff
I've
coverage.
done that. That is a bitch.
Yeah, mid-season. And then so I was on the sideline, and they didn't fix my knee. It was a mop-in tear of the ACL. Just did rehab. Next year, my senior season, I came back and started all 11 games. A weak side defensive end. That was a better position for me. Less traffic to look at. Easier to read. That tackling, that tight end. So it was a better fit for me. Going into my senior year, I'd call my dad. I said, man, Dad, I'm really kind of burned out on football. I don't really know if I want to do this anymore. My dad, he goes, Stephen, University of North Texas gave you a scholarship. He goes, if you let them down, that means someone else could have used the scholarship that you're just going to throw away. And I said, yep, you're right. I said, I got to fulfill my end of the deal. When University of North Texas State University, offered me a scholarship, it was for 2 years. So if I went belly up on them after the first year, I would have not lived out my commitment.
Right.
So heading into my senior season, I think we were like 3-8. We got the crap kicked out of us every Saturday. Won a couple games, but I knew after that I was done, and I didn't have the ability. I didn't have the size, the strength, speed, or size to play at the professional level. I was good enough to start for North Texas State University, and that was it. And I was happy that my football playing days were over. Now, football is my favorite thing to watch on TV. I'm an avid college football fan and professional football fan, and now that football is not on TV right now, I'm jonesing. Now I'm starting to get into the basketball playoffs.
Yeah.
But you got to wait for the basketball playoffs to start before you really get into basketball or even baseball for that matter, because there's just too many games. So I knew that the writing was on the wall from an athletic standpoint with football. To answer your question, early on, I couldn't go any further than what I did.
But you did fulfill.
Oh yeah, man! I got my gut full of football. I had a blast playing, and loved to hit people, loved putting the pads on.
Yeah, what was the thing that you loved the most about it?
Physicality, it was football, man, in Texas. It was much like, any other state. But I'm from Texas, and in Texas, that old show on TV, Friday Night Lights. Man, if you're in Texas, you play football.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of kids don't. And if I had kids right now, I'd put a golf club in their hands.
Really?
I'd steer them away from football. But back in the
Why?
day, no, it's just all this stuff happening with
The
these,
concussions?
the advent of concussions and stuff like that. I believe there's something to it. And I'm not going to sit there and have a gigantic concussion discussion because I don't know enough about it. I'm just saying, if my kid, here's the thing, when you go do something, you go do it, but then all of a sudden you watch, your kid grow up, it's like, I don't know what to do.
You take chances on yourself more than you want to take chances.
I know you can really get hurt doing this.
Yeah.
What was the question you asked me?
No, we were talking about the concussions and the football and all that.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing you learned.
Oh, I don't know about the biggest thing I learned, but I like contact. I like the physicality. I love the game.
Yeah.
I wasn't really an X's and O's player. I knew my responsibility. I would go do it. I just thought that when you come up to Texas, you're supposed to play football, and I did.
Yeah.
That was it.
So what do you think led you to that? Like you said, you'd love to get out there and be tough and all that. Were you always that kid growing up? Was it because you had two brothers that you were or three brothers?
Man.
You guys were always horsing around?
Yeah. When you live in Edna, Texas, the first year you can play football is in 7th grade. So my older brother Scott started playing in 7th grade. Now he would only play for 2 years. It turned out football wasn't his thing. But when he was in junior high, I was in 5th grade. So I would go watch Scott at football practice, and they would be underneath the stadium lifting weights and stuff like that. Little universal gym. It was, podunk.
Yeah.
And the coach says, because he knew that, I was Scott's brother, he goes, you want to jump in and train with us? I said, yeah. So hell, man, here's the junior high school coach letting me as a 5th grader work out with the guys in junior high. How much better does it get?
Right.
I'm in there banging weights and, I'm ready to play football as soon as I get old enough. And sure enough, man, when 7th grade came, man, there I was, right in the line. I was a running back and I wanted to join up because, that's what my brother did. I know I would have gravitated to it without my brother, like my brother Kevin. Me didn't really care about football. Jeff didn't really care about football. My sister was a cheerleader and an awesome track star. But yeah, I just liked, how some things like you probably always love music.
Yes.
I always loved football from watching on TV, Roger Staubach, Terry Bradshaw, those classic, Steeler Cowboys games. Grew up on them.
That's awesome. Now, were your parents always there supporting you?
Man, I tell you what, I got the greatest parents in the world. From when I started, where we grew up, the junior high and the high school played on the same field. Our house was 3 blocks from that stadium. And so they would walk to the games, and every single game, that's how cool my dad was. My dad played for the Rice Owls, Rice University in Houston, Texas. They got a pretty good baseball program right now. Football program, they're coming up now, but back in the day, they were a Southwest Conference powerhouse, and he was a star running back. He was way better than whatever I was. But he would always come to the games, and if I had a badass game and rushed for 100, 200 yards, he goes, man, great game. That's the way to go. And if we got the crap kicked out of us, he goes, hey, man, good game. Y'all tried as much as you could, but my mom would give me a hug. They never pushed me in anything. I'd go out there and throw discus at the track meets. I was a pretty good discus thrower. Made it to state level a couple of times. And my parents would come watch me throw the discus. And I've made it to the, if I won, I won. I said, congratulations. If I didn't make the cut, they say, hey, man, you did your best. Good luck. So my point is, you always hear about these parents just pushing their kids into all kinds of stuff that they want, kind of live vicariously through their kids or pushing the stuff. My parents never did that. They just supported me in everything I did, just the proper way.
Yeah.
I mean, just textbook proper. Support when I needed it, and just, hey, better luck next time when I lost one. And I realized that, once you can participate, but you don't always win. You don't always get a trophy. You don't always get a medal. That's the way it is.
What do you think about that? Because that kind of frustrates me a little bit right now that everyone's getting a trophy.
Well, everything just gets so sissified down. I don't mean to sound like a hard ass, but I mean, just because you participate, if they just want to give you a piece of paper saying thanks for coming, that's one thing. But as far as them ribbons and medals go, the way it was when I was in school, top 6 got medals.
Yeah.
A lot of things top 3. So if you ain't good enough to get something, you don't. Get your ass home, practice, and come back and do it again.
Yeah, to me it makes you strive. You look at that shiny trophy or something, it makes you, it's something, right? To try to
Not everybody gets one, Lilian.
Right. That's
Not
what
gets
drives
one.
me crazy right now, that everyone's getting one just to participate, and I'm like, what?
Here's what you get out of participating. The memory and just the activity, and that's what you get from it.
Absolutely.
And maybe you learn something from it.
Absolutely.
Maybe you learn that you're not good enough. Maybe you learn that you need to try harder or practice more. Maybe you learn that that's not your thing.
Right.
But you can understand, what winning and losing is about.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't mean to say, some people don't handle things so well. But that's just the way some people are.
Yeah.
And the world I live in, if you're good enough to get something, you will. If you ain't, keep trying.
Earn it.
My parents never gave us nothing. When it came time for Christmas, your birthday, you get a present. But at our house, we had a set number of chores. We always had to rotate doing the dishes. We had to take the trash out. We had siding on the house. We had to wash that siding. We had to haul hay. We had to mow the yard. I mean, we didn't get no free ride. We grew up, you got to do your chores. And so I think it always applied to me. You got to do your chores as far as life goes, but you also got to do your chores as far as trying to get yourself better at an athletic endeavor.
So what do you think, what was your biggest struggle growing up?
Well, I was a shy kid growing up, man.
You were?
Yeah.
Now that surprises me.
Yeah, I was quiet as a damn mouse. My sister would, if we wanted to order from the Dairy Queen, call in an order. My sister would order for me because I just didn't like talking to the people on the other end of the phone until to put my order in. And so, anyway, I did okay though. I mean, I just.
What do you think got you over that? Because obviously you're not shy now.
No, you know what? It's real weird. I don't know what it was. I just kind of. I don't know. I really don't know.
Something just clicked.
Yeah, I guess something just clicked because going through college, I started kind of coming out of my shell. I think with my athletic achievements, I was able to kind of come out of my shell, man. And then now I wouldn't say I'm shy now. I just don't care to talk to anybody I want to talk to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've kind of retained that about from shyness just now. It's like
Yeah.
I'm pretty much a loner.
I think you are selective on who you want in your circle.
Very
That's
selective.
the way I see you.
Yeah.
That if somebody isn't adding to your life, why even go there? Right?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Here's something. I never have said anything. I never have talked about this. But going through high school, in those high school yearbooks, they got class favorites. Did y'all have that where you came from? Class favorites.
Yeah.
They get your class votes on.
Right.
I was class favorite 3 out of 4 years. And then on my 4th year, I was Mr. Cowboy. I had the Cowboys, so that's like the homecoming king kind of like thing.
Wow.
So I was 3 years out of 4 as class favorite, and then in my senior, I was Mr. Cowboy. So I identified with people, and I joked with people, and I had a lot of friends. But I call it class clown. I had a good sense of, I think I had a good sense of humor. I was cutting up in class, but I never. I'd rack up some yards running the football or do whatever, but for some reason, back in high school, people like me.
Yeah. So to get that, you kind of have to be away from your shyness.
Well, I was just a nice guy, I guess, because I wasn't trying to get nobody to like me.
Right. I think when people try so hard.
Oh yeah, I was just doing my thing.
Yeah.
And so it turned out it was okay. But I don't know. I think that it ended up helping me in my professional wrestling career as far as being a babyface.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know how you make somebody like you because I didn't tell nobody to go vote for me. It's not something you campaign for.
Right.
It's just something that the school book, the yearbook, or the school or whatever has, and I kept winning.
Isn't it true? Because I kind of see that sometimes with some of the superstars. If they say, okay, now we're going to make you a babyface, there's some of them that have no clue how to be a babyface. And they'll go out there and they do try so hard. Okay, I'm going to smile really big, or I'm going to do this, and so that you'll like me. And it turns out backfiring.
Man, a lot of times people can see through that stuff. And if it comes through as not authentic or not real or a put on, or man, this guy's really trying way too hard, it doesn't register. And sometimes it'll have not a zero effect, but sometimes it will repel people. And when it repels them, it says, I hate this son of a gun. And it'll steer them in a heel direction because the person's a see-through. But, I think it has to just pro wrestling, sports entertainment is so interesting to me because everybody knows it's a work, but the qualities that you must possess to be a successful heel or successful babyface are real, as far as the type of emotions that you can evoke from a crowd, or how you can either endear yourself to them through your actions or through your words or through your storylines, and those all need to be great. But people have made, chicken salad out of chicken scratch for sure. And if you ever met someone that you meet them, and a lot of people like them, but you'll hear, man, this person's got locker room heat, or this person has heat with all the boys.
Yes.
A lot of people just have that innate ability just because of their either cockiness or arrogance,
Right.
or just dismissive personalities. Like, they're easy to hate. So I just think we all have different qualities. It depends on if you have one of those qualities, and you can make someone successfully dislike you from a heel performance standpoint in the business of wrestling. If you work at it long enough and you study people long enough, then you can learn the other part of that as far as getting them to like you, and vice versa, from liking to hate. Although, like going to my heel turn at WrestleMania 17, it was ill-fated. It was a bad decision. People didn't want to hate me.
Right.
As Jim Ross, my good friend, would say, I kind of achieved, maybe, not to put myself in the same ballpark, but like a John Wayne status, where no one wanted to see John Wayne be a bad guy in a Western. So no one really wanted to see Stone Cold go back to being the bad guy that he was in '97.
Yeah, I feel like you really kind of have to listen to the audience for sure.
Yeah, and I didn't. And, if I'd have went back, that would have been one of the other things that would have changed. I wouldn't have stunned Vince after that match with The Rock. The finish would have been the same. The actions would have been the same. I just wouldn't have shook his hand. I would have given him a stunner, called an audible in the ring, and he'd have understood and remained baby.
Yeah. What about when you were a babyface? It's like, take you back to 1997 in your house, Canadian Stampede. All of a sudden, that's a hot crowd. And they were not, it was with the whole, with Brad and all, and they were not having you as a baby. How did that feel for you in the ring? Like, you're like, oh, I'm supposed to be a baby right now.
Are you kidding me? That was one of the most fun matches I've ever had in my life. We're in Canada, we're in Calgary, we're in the Hart's hometown. And the fact, man, when they went out there, because like the Canadian people are great fans. And they're very loyal to
I married one, so I know.
Oh, yeah. So they're awesome. But all of a sudden, so Brett and them go out there, and they're the babies, and we come down, and we're the stone cold heels, no pun intended. And it was like I was eating it up because I always like working heel, and I know it's a one-night stand. Yeah. So my head's not going, oh, they're booing us and they're cheering them. What am I supposed to do? Hell, if you watch that match, I played it up, and we had a badass match, and chemistry off the charts there. And that's where they handcuffed me, and they had my hands behind my back, and I was flipping them off. Yeah. Handcuffed behind my back. I was like a kid in a candy store. It was one of the most fun nights of my life. And of course, go right back to States, white hot baby face. Hey man, listen, when you roll into someone's home territory and they want to cheer for them, play the part of the bad guy. You damn right I will. And with gusto. Yeah. So man, it was great. And I love Bret Hart and all of the Harts. And the other guys in the ring, I was the Road Warriors. I can't remember everybody in the match, but I just remember that. I remember exactly what you're talking about, and I absolutely loved it. It didn't mess with my head at all.
So what would you say now? Let's take Roman Reigns and what's going on with him. The crowd is booing him, right? And then we're supposed to take him as a babyface. I mean, what would you say to him to play it?
I think he's doing fine now, and I've been watching. Some of the storylines haven't been so good, and they kind of, when you kind of shove someone down people's throat, they kind of get a gut full of it sometimes, and they got a gut full of it because, maybe some of the lines that they had written for him weren't the greatest ones. I'm not the not the good guy, the bad guy, the guy, and kind of corny. Yeah. But if you watched and you did Payback when the main event with him and Braun Strowman, those guys crushed it, and Roman Reigns getting beat 1, 2, 3, and then the steel chairs into his chest. He's spitting up blood. Well, people are watching the business these days. They're watching what the guys are doing, and then they're thinking about the writing. So back in the day, no one, kind of was almost still kayfabe. They're just watching the action, and they're mad about the action or happy about the action. Now it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
So if you're watching from a match standpoint, those guys had a badass match and they delivered, and the crowd was into that match. If you're looking from a hardcore ICW standpoint, like, God dang, I'm tired of Roman Reigns, and all of a sudden he does it favors 1, 2, 3 to Braun, who crushes him, and Roman showed fire with those first 2 punches. He's bringing it, and then that loss humanized him. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, you finally able to feel sympathy on this good-looking, great-bodied guy who you really hadn't been able to feel that for until really this moment. So I thought they crushed it. I think Roman Reigns is going to be a big star. He's a star right now, but he's going to be a big star if he just keeps going down the road that he's going, and he's going to figure it all out. He's not necessarily just a natural to the business. But he's very, very good, and he's only going to get better. They just need to keep making his storylines. Listen to what that crowd, listen to the way they responded. Yeah. I didn't see the Raw follow-up or SmackDown follow-up, whatever show he's on.
Yeah,
but the kid is heading down the right road, and I like him a lot. And when someone has a bad performance, I'll say, then it wasn't so much. That was a good performance. And make no mistake about it, Lilian, when I talk about these people, as I was talking to you on the phone the other day while I was walking my dogs, I want everybody in the WWE to get over from top to bottom, all the guys, all the girls. And I want to make a lot of money, and I want the people watching to be thrilled to death because they're putting out a badass product. So when you ask me, I'll tell you because I'm going to give you what I think. I'm going to give you my honest opinion.
Right.
So I want everybody to get over. So we'll see what happens with him. He's got a ways to go, but right now he's on a good track.
When you said that you were having so much passion for football, what brought you so much passion for wrestling? Because, my God, I love talking to you about wrestling because I see it. I feel it. I hear it. Like, it's just, what was it about wrestling that caught you?
Man, I tell you, I told the story before, but when you're sitting here in person, I can tell it to you. When I was 7 or 8 years old, visited Edna, Texas, pro wrestling came on TV. It was Houston Wrestling out of the Sam Houston Coliseum. Paul Bosch was the promoter. And if I'm not mistaken, I've told this story, and Dusty was always the guy. Dusty Rhodes was in the ring. He was bleeding his ass off. Somebody had the iron claw on him. It was a smoke-filled arena. Again, you're going back to when I was 8 years old. So you remember how far back this was. It was shot a lot differently then.
Than it is now, yeah.
And so you can only see about the first 2 or 3 rows of people. There's a string banister, not a guardrail, just a string just to keep people in their seats. And slowly there's a security guard walking around the ring. He's got a sidearm. And this is back in the day. You know, he got a sidearm at a wrestling match.
Wow.
And he just slowly strolling around the ring, and the people are just glued to the match. And Dusty is bleeding like a stuck pig. And he's got that guy's that iron claw on him, and I'm like, God dang, would somebody help Dusty? And I looked at my mom, and she was reading a magazine. She wasn't watching the show. She was just sitting in her chair.
Right.
And so I said, God dang, Mom. I said, why don't that security guard help Dusty? My mom looked up at the TV, rolled her eyes, and went back to reading her magazine. But God dang it, Lillian, that, from then on, I was hooked. And like my brothers, my sister, they come in there and say, oh man, let's watch something else. It was only a 1 hour show once a week.
Yeah.
He said, turn this stuff off. This is fake. I said, no. It says it's only lasts 1 hour. Let me watch it. Then you can watch whatever you want to. But wrestling for 1 hour, I watched it. And so I grew up watching it. And then when I accepted that scholarship to play for North Texas State University, was the greatest decision, one of the greatest decisions I ever made in my life, because it put me right in the backyard of world-class championship wrestling. And then, where the...
Yeah, you leaving early actually helped get you where you were supposed to be.
Yeah. I always think, man, I don't mean to segue, but I always think kind of, in some ways I kind of believe in like a destiny or predestiny.
I do.
Like I think I was cut out to be a pro wrestler, and whatever like right now I'm on a gravy train with biscuit wheels. I mean, I got to work my ass off. I got problems just like everybody else does, but I got a chance to do exactly what I wanted to do. Had to ride off in the sunset a little too fast, but I think I was always supposed to be where I'm at right now. And all the decisions and all the screw-ups that I made always kept me on this trajectory to be in the business of pro wrestling. And I think you can screw up your destiny by making bad decisions or get strung out on something and putting a roadblock in front of yourself. But for some reason, the stars always aligned up for me to get to the next level, and it wasn't always easy. There was a lot of bureaucratic red tape and politics and things that I had to work through, and so I stayed the course. But I always figured I was supposed to be a pro wrestler, and whether I was going to be good or not was up to me. And I had to work my ass off, and it turned out okay.
Yeah, to say the least. Do you think it helped that you were also in a time where you had like Rock, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, I mean the list goes on, in the Attitude Era, that you had these guys to play off of that also had so much talent, and also on the mic so much talent?
Oh man, you look back at that locker room, there's a bunch of guys that aren't in the Hall of Fame, but there's also a lot of guys that aren't in the Hall of Fame that will be. Man, we had a badass roster. That was one of the most talented rosters in the history of the business.
I agree.
So, yeah, man, we had, first of all, we had a stacked. We had a stacked locker room, and here's the thing: like in the business of pro wrestling, hey man, I'm in it for myself, but we're in it as a team because we're traveling together. We're like a carnival.
Oh, it's a team.
This is pro wrestling. We got a card. You're a match, and there's 8 other matches or 10 other matches, or whatever the program is.
Right.
So you're all a team, and so you're all fighting to put asses in the seats. So you want all. Okay, it would be real selfish for me to say, "Oh man, I want to be number one, and I don't want anybody to be close." No, I want to be number one, and I want everybody to be kicking, scratching, clawing, so I can really say that I'm number one.
Yeah.
So you want the guy that you're working with to be as hot as you, because the hotter your dance partner is, the more people are going to want to see that. So we had such a charismatic, talented group of guys in the ring, on the horn, with their gimmicks. Vince was on fire with the ideas. The writing department, the booking department had great ideas. Yes, I'm glad we had the locker room we had, because who knows what would have happened. And it was cutthroat now. I mean, it was... and even the days before me, before the Attitude Era, that locker room, man, it's kind of changed over the years, but it's a rough and tumble business, and people take getting over in their spot very serious. And hey, man, when I got dropped on my head and had to ride off in the sunset for a little bit, nobody wanted that to happen to me, but once it did, they moved up a rung on that ladder.
Right.
So it's just a highly competitive environment. I didn't mean to get segued on you, but to answer your question, I'm glad we had the locker that we had. It's a very competitive business, and it's a dog-eat-dog world, and I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I literally, as you're saying all of that, I'm visioning myself. I was the front of the front row. I mean, I had the best seat in the house every night. I'm so lucky that I get to watch you guys like do your thing right there. And I'm sitting here thinking, my God, I mean, it's not just the names I named, and then there's Triple H, and then there's Kurt Angle, and like I said, Mick Foley, and it is phenomenal, like the era that was. And then to me, it felt like there was a little bit of a lull. Like when you guys all just a little bit, one by one kind of disappeared, went, left the business. It's almost like, I'm actually really grateful in a way that there's been NXT. I feel like that's helped a little bit more. Would you agree with that?
I think NXT's helped, but also think there was that lull there. I think that for a while they were kind of recruiting 6'3" bodybuilder types that had a great tan, and that lasted for give or take 5 years or 6 years, whatever it was. But right now, and the business kind of goes up and down. It's like a roller coaster. I believe, I don't know what houses are, but I think it's trending up. When I'm looking at the guys that are starting it over with Braun, Roman leading the charge, Bray Wyatt's real tight. They need to dial him in and get him on track. There's a lot of guys they just need to write better for, but they got a bunch of good hands in there right now.
And a lot of variety.
Again, I don't know what the houses are, but I think. I don't know if the wrestling audience is getting smaller for the ratings. The thing about it, Lily, is these days people are watching the shows in so many different fashions, and everybody's downloading stuff or watching on an iPhone, or they get it off Hulu. I don't know what ratings mean anymore.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen in the product, I'm more interested in the product now than I have been the last few years. So I think they're tracking up, and I'm digging what I'm seeing. So I would just speak for me.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I just really feel like I've definitely seen the turn where NXT to me has helped in that you also know the characters before they hit Raw or SmackDown. You care about them.
Well, and also those guys are getting reps. It's hard to be on the indie scene and not working enough. You've got to be, when I first started out in the USWA, and after 2 months of getting the crap beat out of me in Dallas, they sent me working full-time in Tennessee, and you're working 6 days a week. Same town every week, 6 times a week. Lillian, as you know, with repetition, you become better.
Right.
And so, man, I got good pretty damn fast because of the repetition and because of wily, smart veterans that were dropping information on me and helping me and mentoring me. So with these NXT guys down there getting all the reps in, training with all these people that know what's up, by the time, it's like the quarterback position in the NFL these days. All these kids are coming from these junior highs and high schools, and they're winging the ball way more than they used to way back in the day. So the quarterback position is getting better at the pro level. These guys are throwing more because of the background. So same thing with the business of pro wrestling. If you got a guy working 1 day a week, every now and then, it's going to take them a long time to get good. They've got to create their own superstars because there's nowhere else to create them. I wish WCW was still around, quite frankly.
Too. Just because of competition. Competition's always
just for the sake of competition. It was cool to kick our ass finally after 2 years of getting our ass kicked.
Yeah.
But I wish they were still around because I like Brand X and Brand Y.
Yeah, I actually had Eric Bischoff on my show a few weeks ago, and we were talking about that. 84 weeks. It was beating, WWF at the time. And how... he really feels like it was the reason that WWE had to change what they were doing, and then the Attitude Era came. Competition is always good.
Well, I think so. But I remember watching some of their shows back, and we were always on the road. When they rolled out that Nitro show, some of the things that I saw them do, I was like, God dang, really? Our show's better than that. Then again, they had some good shows that were clearly better than ours. But when we started banging on that door, we started getting close, and I still couldn't believe that they were beating us. But then at one time we started beating them, and we never went back.
How did it feel for you that you were at WCW and then you were was it a personal vendetta to beat them in the ratings?
No, I wouldn't say that. It was just, and like you said, you talked to Eric Bischoff. Every now and then when Eric comes to LA, he'll give me a call and we'll go drink a couple of beers. That's a hatchet that's been buried a long time ago. I like Eric a lot.
He's awesome.
But it was a deal where, he didn't see any money in me. And quite frankly, if you'd lined up everybody in that locker room and, hey man, pick all your stars and then throw out the scrubs, I was kind of starting to lose my hair. Didn't really have a great gimmick. Didn't have the whole, package put together yet. So, based on the amount of days that I'd been injured, coming off a knee injury and then a tricep injury, he did what he thought he needed to do.
Right.
But here's the thing, going back to what I said about my mother, you tell me I can't do something, boy, I'll prove you wrong every single time. And I wanted to be a successful professional wrestler, and I came up with a Stone Cold gimmick, and I started cranking out merchandise, and we started putting asses in seats. But it wasn't like, hey, this is a vendetta or this is revenge.
Yeah.
You're the guys that let me go. Eric Bischoff firing me was the best thing that ever happened to me as far as pro wrestling goes, because I would have never become Stone Cold Steve Austin down in WCW.
So you didn't tell him that idea? You didn't have that
No. That was all just, that destiny, that path that I was on. And so, Jake the Snake would have never came into my life and cut a religious-based promo on me. Doc Hendricks, Michael PSAs would have never told me about that promo when I came back from getting my mouth stitched up after Mark Merrow kicked me in the mouth there in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the Mecca Arena. And so all the things, and I wouldn't have watched the HBO special on Richard Kuklinski, the serial killer, that gave me the stone cold or cold-blooded mentality for a heel. I'm not endorsing anything the guy did. He's a psychopath. But I was a heel in the business. He had heel characteristics, and I just wanted to use that as a template. So none of it would have happened, Lilian, had I remained at WCW, because I was trying to negotiate a 3-year deal to stay there, because, hell, I didn't know I was going to be Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Right.
I was a guy on the card in WCW, mid-card, upper card, but not main event, and I was a pretty good hand in the ring. I believed in myself. I just didn't know what I could become yet. And I would never became what I did become had WWF not given me that opportunity.
That is awesome. And to me, it also shows and tells people that don't be so upset if you get fired, right?
But also, in the transformation, and like wherever somebody's at right now, wherever someone's at right now in NXT, or even in WWE on the main roster, Raw or SmackDown, like when you look at yourself and you've been in the business 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, don't think that you can't change who and what you are if who and what you are is not working. You might, I had long blonde hair. I was a pretty good looking guy back in the day. And turns out I was losing my hair and shaving my head and growing this goatee turned out to be the trademark look that Stone Cold needed.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to change or modify, because if you look at any rock and roll band, as they come up, look at the changes those guys make to make their final thing to where they really hit it big as far as how popular they are. It's a metamorphosis, or it's a maturation process, or whatever you want to call it. But you've got to grow into whatever you can perceive or come up with that really suits you.
I think it's a great advice to people that are in there now, people that are thinking, independent wrestlers, all of that. I want to ask you something about your biological father. Do you ever talk to him?
No, he came to a show in Austin, Texas one time. He still lives in Austin. And we were working at Frank Irwin Center, and he came up, and I knew he was there. He told me he was going to be there. And he's about 6'4", kind of skinny, but looked just like me with piercing blue eyes. And he already had a receding hairline, so I knew where that was coming. And man, I shook his hand.
When was this?
Oh, this was with WWE, and it was probably, hell, I don't know, about 98-ish.
Wow.
Give or take around 98.
This is before, I mean, you just...
I was pretty hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, 98, yep.
Yeah, I was pretty hot.
I was there in 99.
And we shook hands. I said, hey, man, what's up, whatever. And there wasn't a whole lot of words.
What was that for you?
Nothing.
You don't feel anything?
Nah. No, I ain't got nothing against the guy.
Right.
He's a good dude, whatever. You got to understand, I'm a real loyal person. My mom brought us up. So, I know my mom's side of the story. That's the story I'm going with.
Right.
And I know the whatever happened between them. I know what happened there. So, just, Ken Williams was in my life, and I don't know. He wasn't there. He wasn't there. And so...
What did he seem like? Did he apologize or anything?
No. He just introduced himself. I mean, we're two grown men. Just saying, hey, what's up? And I said, all right, catch you down the road.
And that's it? You've never seen him since?
No, I think my brother or two, Scott or Kevin, every now and then catches up with him. But me, nah.
Has that affected you at all, you think?
No, not at all.
No? So
I don't have any sense of abandonment, any sense of betrayal. It's like my parents got divorced, man. We adjusted accordingly.
Yeah. Now, you were 2, or like you said, you were 2 or 3. What about your brothers that were older? Has that affected them?
No, they didn't. Come on in. No, nobody was affected by it. I mean, it's like we were 3 or 4. Scott was probably 6, 7 years old. You just adjust.
Yeah.
And Man, my family's so cool. Everybody's, man, no one's going to a shrink or nothing like that. You go through these tragic things of, this divorce that happened many, many years ago. We all moved on. We adjusted on the fly. Kids always resilient. I always hear people say, we just want to stay married for the kids. Hey, man, the kid's going to be all right. If you really think you need to part ways and go, don't waste your life being miserable. Put it into it, cut your losses, and move on accordingly.
Because I also think that if you don't have a healthy household and you're being raised in that as well, that doesn't help the kids at all.
No, because, they know what's up. They can get a feeling when there's that kind of, don't really want to be around you kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. And now you have 2 daughters. Are they still in England?
Still in England. One was out here in L.A. for a couple of years and just went back to England. And she might be coming back out here. I haven't talked to her. And my youngest daughter has stayed in England. And they moved back to England. Man, I was just starting to get really hot here in New York. 98, 99, 2000, right around then. It was right around when 9/11 happened. They were already over there, so they'd been over there for pretty much since then. Yeah.
Do you miss the fact that you were on the road so much that you missed being with them?
I always tell everybody, man, I wasn't a role model father because I was always gone. And then, like I told you earlier, man, when I came home, man, I had 118 acres. I had my daughter a little 4-wheeler to ride around, stuff like that. But, after a day and a half being home, quite frankly, I was ready to get back on the road.
Mm. And how do you feel now?
Well, they're both adults. Shoot, one's 25, the other's just turned 19. So you just feel like you weren't ready to be a dad? No, I was ready to be a dad. I was just a dad that was in the business of pro wrestling. And so the times that we were together, I was doing my best, telling them, hey, man, here's how we do things. Here's the chores. Here's what you need to do. The oldest daughter started playing soccer. And then, divorce happened. They kind of ended up in England. I ended up over here, and just not a whole lot of time. It's just, we all missed out on a lot.
Yeah.
And I got to say, man, being in the business, to really go out, to really do anything, I could have been a truck driver. You've got to be selfish with your time as far as trying to put the miles in to take that freight down the road. Same thing with pro wrestling, man. If you're in it and you want to be on top, I've known a lot of guys who've been way better fathers than I have, and their families are still intact, and that's how it worked out for them. Mm-hmm. That's not how it worked out for me. Ended up with a divorce, and am I in touch with my kids? Yeah, but did I get a chance to spend as much time with them as I could have? No, because I was really in love with the business of pro wrestling and loved everything that went with it.
So, again, it's going back to that thing where everybody thinks it's a glamorous life, but where you give up for it as well.
Hey, I was willing to do whatever it took to work with injuries, miss family, whatever it took. I was in it to win it.
Yeah. And do you miss wrestling itself?
I don't miss it anymore because I'm over it. When I first had to leave the business after wrestling with Rock at WrestleMania 19 in Seattle, that was a hard time for me. And that was the hardest times for me, like getting my C3-4 fuse. It's just getting C3-4 fuse and being gone for a while. Getting my tricep reattached, it's just been gone for a while. But when I had to leave because my body was starting to go south on me, that was about a 3-year transition period before I came out here to Los Angeles. And I just spent a lot of time hunting, fishing, drinking, doing stupid stuff. And I was retired effectively because I wasn't doing anything. And then after about 3 years of that, I said, Steve, you need to get your ass out there to LA and use a little bit of your name, what's left of it, to be gainfully employed.
Right.
And so I came out here and started doing what I'm doing. But it took me, to the point I wanted to make, Lilian, was a lot of guys that get in the business of pro wrestling don't have an exit strategy because you want it to last forever. It doesn't last forever. It doesn't for anybody. Triple H has stayed in the game, no pun intended, because he's on the inside now,
right,
helping run the company. But just from guys who want to don't want to be inside that part of the business or can't be inside that part of the business just from the performance standpoint. When that falls off, you've got to segue into something else. So a lot of guys have made exits from the business that have been less than graceful. I would say that mine was less than graceful as well. I went through my trials and tribulations and got back on my feet, got out here, and now I'm good to go.
Yeah.
You always got a plan for the backside, and that's what I tell these kids these days. You know, you be a part of the machine, contribute to the machine, but also while the machine and you are on the same page together, and you are healthy and able to be involved, and they still have plans for you. Always make that hay while the sun's shining, but realize that this will not last forever.
Right.
So that once you reach a certain age, you need to have plan B, or what will you do once you decide to leave the machine and the power and the enormity which is the WWE universe.
And like you weren't even able to make that decision. It was decided for you because of the injuries. So it doesn't even have to be an age thing. It could be like an injury thing. Like you just always have to be prepared no matter what. But I think the main thing too is to say there is life after wrestling.
The first person to ever tell me that was my real good friend, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. And Paul had that bad arm, he had nerve damage. He got kicked in the head, and his arm just got all that atrophy in it. And he had some neck problems. He was down here in WCW. He was training people at the power plant. And then he tried to make an in-ring return. Whatever. I was starting to get beat up. And I remember I called Paul one time, and he goes, "Steve," he goes, "there is life again." Have you ever met Paul?
No.
Especially him in his prime. He's from Brandon, Florida. He used to be called the Brandon Bull because Paul was just built like a brick house, and just when Paul told you something, that's how it was.
Okay.
Straightforward, man's man.
Yeah.
And he has this passion about him, and he's just a guy's guy. And he told me on the phone, we used to travel together and deer hunt together. And he goes, "Steve," he goes, "there is life after wrestling." And I needed to hear that. I said, "There is?" He goes, "You damn right there is." And he wasn't lying. There is life after wrestling.
Yeah.
There's a hell of a lot of life after wrestling.
Yeah.
It was, when I look back, I have so many good memories, but I don't miss it because I've been out so long.
Right.
But do I still love it? Hell yeah. But is there life after it? And am I happy as a lark? Hell yeah.
Yeah. And I want to thank you because being on your podcast was the reason that when the cards got dealt my way, as well of leaving because of my dad, I realized, okay, so what am I going to do, right? Immediately it was a podcast idea because I had so much fun being on yours. So you influenced me to start mine, and I want to thank you for that because it's a cool journey to be able to have this kind of conversation. You and I were together for so many years. I didn't know all these things about you, and I think it's fascinating to hear who you are, your background, how you grew up, all of that. It is who you are. It builds the entire person. So I thank you for sharing your story. I also want to thank you for picking me to be in the ring to have beers with you. That was awesome.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But you were always so game and cool about it because, there's a lot of times where you didn't know, or I didn't say, "Hey, I'm going to pour beer all over you."
No.
And you had places to go, a plane to catch, or a car to get to, or an event to go to just as well as I did, or probably way more than I did because you're more social and you have a life. But you were so game and so cool. And you and me have gotten along like gangbusters since we first met each other.
Yeah.
So, and we've always had chemistry when we're doing the stuff off camera or after the show, after the cameras allegedly stopped rolling. So we always had fun, but you were the consummate coolest
Are you kidding me? You're asking me, Stone Cold Steve Austin's asking me to have a beer. Of course I'm going to have a beer.
It was fun.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. As a matter of fact, I remember that they brought, because that was going so well, it gave them the idea to have it on the show, but it wasn't me first. Remember they had Stacy Keibler do it one time, and I think it was like, oh, no, this isn't working.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden is when Memorial Day, they brought up the idea of you and I singing America the Beautiful together. And I don't know if you ever knew, like, you started the song, but you started it in a different key.
Yeah.
And because you don't really...
I don't know how to sing.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But because you started a different key when I stopped singing, you thought I was ribbing you.
Yeah.
I was like, no, it's because I'm about to go in the stratosphere to sing like opera right now.
So here's the thing. I bust off singing because I thought it was a rib to begin with. I was like, real lyrics. I started it off, and then you're singing with me, but I don't realize that I'm out of key, just like you said. So then all of a sudden, when you stop singing, because it made you start singing up here,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh man, I stepped right in the middle of a rib. I didn't know I was singing kind of high, so that you mess your voice up because you're a professional singer.
Well, I was like, what, am I supposed to go into opera right now to reach this note?
Hey, Lilian,
I was like, take it away, Steve.
I know how to put asses in seats for a wrestling match. My claim to fame from that is zilch.
I love it though, because every July 4th or any special holiday, people will send that clip to me all the time, and I post it every year because I think it's just a really genuine, fun moment that we had in the ring. And I'll never forget, if you guys haven't seen this, make sure you watch it when you propose to me. When you really propose for another beer, though. I don't know if you remember, I watched that clip.
I remember, I saw it a couple weeks ago. People send that stuff all the time as well.
Right, and RVD is in the ring with us. He's watching you as you're down on one knee. You're like, Lilian. He's like, oh my God, what is about to happen?
I never asked his reaction to that. He was on the podcast some 6 or 8 months ago. Next time I talk to him, I'll have to ask him what he was thinking, because because that was all on the fly.
Right.
No one was going to do that. And I'm thinking maybe he thought like, golly, maybe these guys have something together. He's really going to ask her to marry him.
It was brilliant. Again, thank you. I really look forward to continuing, just all these years with you and just seeing where you flourish and all the projects that you got going on, and having a beer with you. As a matter of fact, I have something that the way we're going to end this off. All right, so of course I had to end this off. It's because it's audio. You guys are going to have to listen to this. With Stone Cold beer, right? All right, you ready for this? 1, 2. Oh, yeah. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Remember that, cheers. Remember, youtube.com/AfterBuzzTV, and also on iTunes, and LilianGarcia.com has everything, all the other podcasts too that you guys can catch up on. Thanks again, Steve, as always.
Cheers.
Cheers to you.
And an absolutely wonderful conversation. It was great talking with you, Lilian.
Oh, same here. Thank you so much. Much peace, love, and passion to all of you guys. All right, see ya.
From executive producers Lilian Garcia, Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, and Phil Svitek, producer Stephen Lemieux, senior news producer Ryan Satin, news and social media correspondent Ashley Daniels, and the entire Making Their Way to the Ring staff, we would like to thank you for tuning in. Like us on Facebook, rate and comment on iTunes and YouTube. This has been a presentation of the AfterBuzz TV Network. Buzz you later!